Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's start from the situation on the ground and awesome news for Ukraine, because our defenders were able to repel one of the biggest Russian attacks out there, yes, since the beginning of the war. So the early morning Russia decided to make a breakthrough from Marinka to Kurakhove. They've concentrated 11 of the tanks, 45 of the armored vehicles with infantry forces, including the Terminator fighting vehicle, which is kind of the new for the Russian army. Plus they sent motorcycles, 12 of the Hell Riders joined this attack. But the Ukrainian defenders from the 79th Brigade were able to repel this attack, causing Russians severe losses. The full video about the case is available on my Telegram channel and you may check it out following my link in the video description just below. Unfortunately, because of the YouTube restrictions, I cannot share it here. But I can tell you the statistics of the Russian losses, so they lost 6 of the tanks and 7 of the armored vehicles with the Russian infantry, plus all of the 12 Russian motorbikes. As for the Russian soldiers, well, it's hard to say at this moment because they might hide still out there and the Ukrainian drone operators are searching for them. Well, we may say that definitely the losses are significant for the Russian army. My friends, if you like the videos which I film every day, you may also consider supporting me on Patreon. My Patreon page is available with my personal link in the video description just below. Thank you so much for supporting me. And let me show you where it happened. So this is Marinka. Russia occupied this village a long time ago, but from the information I know, the fight for Georgievka is still ongoing, so Russia wasn't able to advance to this village. While different military map sources have the different information, from what I know, Russians are still somewhere in Georgievka. And here is Kurakhove village. It's over here, it's the town, it's not the village, sorry. And there is quite a big lake, so Russians tried to advance from this side all across this road, probably reaching Kurakhove, but they were totally unsuccessful. So yeah, we're looking from the east to the west and the north is over here. The thing that all of those 3 lines are Ukrainian defense lines, and from what I know, the defense of Ukrainian army near Kurakhove is quite robust. So when Russia advanced, immediately they were spotted by Ukrainian surveillance drones and the Ukrainian artillery started to hit Russian tanks and armored vehicles. But at first Russians didn't stop, they continued their movement and later on were attacked once again, this time with more artillery and more FPV drones. And after losing half of their tanks and quarter of their armored vehicles, Russians decided to turn back to their positions. Otherwise, it could have been a big devastation for them because of the miscommunication without this attacking Russian forces. The Russian motorbikes continued their trip towards the Ukrainian positions and were totally annihilated. That's why they lost all of their motorcycles. And you know, I still wonder why Russia is doing it. Why did they send their forces in the useless attack? Because they should have understood that the positions of the Ukrainian army are quite robust, even for this massive attack. There is definitely a miscommunication between the local commanders on the ground, I mean from the Russian side, and their generals, because generals are sure that it's enough to take this ground or something like that, but mostly they have severe losses as today. Kurakhove itself is a very important town. By taking the settlement under control, Russia might cross to the other side of the river and they also might expand towards the southwest. And here you can see there are not many villages, so for them it's kind of the easy way to go more to the west. For this reason, the Kurakhove defense is very important. So Russia is successful in Krasnohorovka, and for this reason they think that they might advance trying to attack Kurakhove. But I would say that it's too early for them. Also, why Kurakhove is important, because here you can see the lower ground with the river and lots of the settlements over here. So maybe Russia plans to bypass everything of that through Kurakhove, going from the south, attacking eastbound. But the plans are the plans, the real situation is very different and kind of dramatic for the Russian armed forces. Yeah, we understand that there are also problems for Ukrainian side, especially near Progress, with possible encirclement of Ukrainian armed forces in this sector. Russian bots in the comments say that there are 2,000 Ukrainian armed forces. Guys, it's just a couple of the fields. Just imagine 2,000 soldiers in those few tree lines. No, it's not possible. I believe not more than 50 of Ukrainian soldiers are now out there. Nevertheless, even including all of the mistakes done by the Ukrainian generals, our generals never ever would send the forces in a useless midwave attacks like Russia does right now. I mean, there was the case with the last year's counteroffensive of the Ukrainian army, but then our command saw tremendous losses. They decided to stop the operation completely. But Russia is unstoppable. They continue to waste their forces. So yeah, I'm still waiting for the military map update and the good news for Ukraine, but obviously Russia still has the initiative on the front lines. It doesn't mean that they're very successful, but little by little sometimes they take the ground. And then they have ambitious plans to get more ground, much more than usual. Well, usually it leads to the midwave's kaput. So yes, awesome job done today by Ukrainian defenders. And here we see the Russian tank is coming from the battle, and definitely something is wrong with its hangar or turtle construction. It was significantly damaged and just lucky to return back. And you know guys, Kurakhove is not the only place where Russia tried to advance today. The 33rd Brigade also reported about the advancement towards their side, and they successfully repelled the attack by using the cluster munition. This time Russians used just few of the armored vehicles, mostly they concentrated on the infantry forces attacks. They started to use more of their ex-prisoners, sending them to direct forward attacks. It is the tactics of the Wagner army, for example. Moreover, we know that Russia uses some sort of the substances for their prisoners. Those eliminate the fear and they go like zombies. Right, and we have the update from the Deep State military map. They show this picture, and there is absolutely great risk for the encirclement of Ukrainian forces which are staying in those fields. As I said to you, it's not more than 50 soldiers out there at this small part of the ground. But why didn't they get the information from Ukrainian command to leave this area? Well, it's strange for me. The Deep State military map source, they analyzed the situation and they put the alarm in the social media that something should be done for those guys. And not just this area, you may see that Russia tries to encircle also this part too. This picture is absolutely bad for the Ukrainian armed forces in this direction. And the Micro 73 analytic also confirms the movement of the Russian army, and this bottleneck, well, it's really narrow. And while I'm recording this video, the kabooms were reported in the Russian city of Kursk, and definitely Russia has some of the military bases out there, plus the supply hubs, because Kursk is not really far away from the Ukrainian border. Again guys, the full videos like that I publish on my Telegram channel. And what was kaboomed out there, well, we're gonna see tomorrow morning. And you know, Russia continued to lose their air defense system. This time it's the Panzer S, kind of the unique system in the Russian army, and they've lost already many of them. Sorry guys for the blur. Ukraine is using the FPV drones to hit the Russian surveillance drones. For example, this is the Russian Zala. It flies somewhere out there. Yes, it's here. So the drone operator tries to hit it with this long stick or something like that. So finally this strike was successful, the drone went down as well as the Ukrainian drone too. But still it is the cheapest way to get rid of the Russian surveillance drones, for sure. About Germany, well, Chancellor Scholz stated today once again that the policy of the country will not change relative to Taurus missiles. Yeah, those could be definitely game changer if we speak about the Russian supplies behind the front lines or even their military bases. But maybe someday Germany's policy relative to their long-range missiles could change. I think it might happen in case Ukraine obtains permission to use ATACMS against the Russian military airfields far behind the front lines, actually on the Russian territory. For now, Scholz afraid to escalate just from his own side, but if they do it together with other countries, it could work. About Ukrainian F-16s, well, sure, they're coming very soon, we're just counting the days before they arrive. I just wonder this month or the next one, but for sure they're coming as promised this summer. And we have the statement from the Ukrainian General Commander Syrsky, who say that those airplanes will not come closer to the front lines, closer than 40 kilometers, because Russia has the tools to eliminate those. So mostly F-16s will be used as an air defense tools to eliminate the threat from the Russian cruise missiles, the job that has already been done by Ukrainian air defense. But F-16s might do it more effectively. So obviously those kind of the operations will secure F-16s, but after all they should be used against the Russian fighter jets or fighters bombers like Sukhoi 34, which drop gliding bombs on Ukrainian positions. Maybe if Ukraine obtains more of the F-16s, it could use it in a different way, but for now it's very early to say about how many of the airplanes Ukraine gets this year. Right guys, what's about the Kerch connection? Well, according to the logic, I think that Ukraine might hit it very soon, especially with the news coming from the United States politics. Joe Biden is not running for the next election campaign, so potentially he could go all in given Ukraine the permission to use ATACMS, but still I think Ukraine waits for F-16s. And yes, the strike on the Russian port, Caucasus port in this place, tells a lot. It's just like a clue. So Ukraine at first eliminates what it can do just right now, the ferry transport connection for the Russian army, which it could use potentially if something goes wrong with the Kerch Bridge. But the other clue that the strike is imminent is that Russia removed all of their military ships from the Azov Sea, the ships which are crucially needed for the supplies of their group on the south. Before they used the port of Berdyansk and port of Mariupol for that. And also they've took, for example, grains from Ukraine using those ports, so why to withdraw the ships from Azov Sea? Well, maybe Russians know something because their intelligence still works well. And here we have the statement from Dmytro Pletenchuk. He says that Russia removed all of the military ships from the Azov Sea. So this is the Ukrainian military official, and he thinks the same. And about the Russian railroad, which they built to connect Rostov-on-Don with Crimea, well, the information that they're building this road very fast is mostly not correct. We already have the detailed explanation from the deep state military map that judging on the satellite images, experts took the build of the pipeline, yes, the gas pipeline, as the build of the Russian railroad by mistake. Yes, still Russia is building the connection, but only towards Mariupol, and from Mariupol I think to Berdyansk, that's it. So still the Kerch connection is a fat target. Kind of the strange turnaround of Ukrainian government, now they seek for some sort of the negotiations with Russia, even though before President Zelensky officially forbidden those talks with the current Russian regime of Putin. Now we see the signs from Zelensky that first of all we need to protect the lives of Ukrainians, that we're gonna see Russia on the next step of negotiations which might take place in neutral country. Also the Ukrainian foreign minister who visited China said that definitely they should negotiate with Russia. What I may say that we haven't heard those notices for a very long time from Ukrainian side. I remember the last time I heard that was at the very beginning of the full-scale war. Then Russia was close to Kiev and Zelensky asked Putin for negotiations. But after Russia was forced to withdraw their forces from Kiev and many other regions, Ukraine decided to go all in and continue the counterattack. But as we see for now, Ukraine is unable to take the ground as it was in 2022. Instead, Russia has the initiative. So in this case, I don't think that negotiations might help. Because whether we like it or not, but Russia has the advantage on the front lines. But Putin also seeks for negotiations because his army is not infinite. They need to freeze this war for a while, but later on they'll restart it once again. And all of those negotiations will lead to nothing. I expect that Zelensky probably gets pushed by the Western politicians to start negotiations with Russia. But it's early to say whether the Ukrainian government wants to give Russia the territory of Ukraine. I think that people in Ukraine wouldn't accept it. And you know, for example, mayor of Kiev, who is kind of the big political figure in Ukraine, said that Zelensky could put this question for referendum to get rid of the personal responsibility. And I think it also might depend on who really is the United States president for the next term. If Donald Trump, well, he sees this conflict as some sort of the internal clashes between Ukraine and Russia over some of the Russian-speaking regions, but actually for Putin it's not like that. Putin wants to restore the Soviet Union, occupying all of the Ukraine and taking inside Russia other countries. Taking inside, I mean just like Belarus, for example, which is on the paper is the independent country. On the paper, yes, only. For now, it's hard to say. It's a big political game, but Russia seeks to get Ukraine under control, as I've just told you. They don't have the other option. All the papers that are signed by Russia worth nothing. But still, the governments of the other countries, like for example UK, they understand the real threat from Russia. And here we have the vehicle losses for the last 10 days. As you can see, sometimes Ukraine loses quite a lot of the vehicles per day. But in general, Russia loses many more of the vehicles. So the total losses for the 10 days for Russia, 542, for Ukraine, 259. The ratio is 2.1 to 1. It is quite a big ratio. Usually Ukraine loses much less of the vehicles. Why is it happening like that? Well, Ukraine first of all sent some of the reinforcements to the very hot directions to cope with the Russian attacks, and unfortunately Ukraine also has losses in that case. As for the tanks, Russia lost 71 of the tanks, Ukraine 20. BMPs and heavy armored vehicles, Russia 66, Ukraine 17. Light armored vehicles like BTRs, MTLBs, Russia lost 46, Ukraine 9. Miraculously, Russia started to use MRAP types of the vehicles like Tiger and Typhoon. They lost 18 of them. For Ukraine, 15. Artillery standard, Russia 40, Ukraine 26. The self-propelled artillery, Russia 16, Ukraine 14. Plus there are statistics for the supply vehicles and many of the other vehicles. So we may see that definitely the intensity of the fight is really high. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.